Hello, everyone. Welcome to another OpenShift streaming session. Today, I am joined by two wonderful Red Hatters. We're going to be talking about org management and team onboarding with OpenShift. And I would I am going to introduce myself, Chris Short, Principal Technical Marketing Manager at Red Hat, CNCF Ambassador. But I want the others on the call to introduce themselves because I will not do them justice. So, Raffaele, please introduce yourself for the audience today.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Raffaele Spazzoli. I am an architect, an OpenShift architect. So I work in consulting at Red Hat, helping customer design, deploy, and OpenShift, and then onboarding application and running workloads on OpenShift. And Andy, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. My name is Andy Block. I'm a senior principal consultant here at Red Hat. I focus mainly on containers. I do a bunch of stuff with automation. Tool Ansible is awesome. Thumbs up to those guys. And I'm going to talk about some of the tools that you can use to not only get your organization onboarded into OpenShift, but to streamline that using a repeatable process that can help your adoption journey. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So just to let everyone know, I knew Andrew from before I joined Red Hat on, the whole Ansible community side of things. So it's super cool to have him on the stream every time he's here or whenever I'm in a meeting with him. It's very cool to be a part of bringing that community feel back into my day job. It's super awesome, right? It's the same reason I stay involved in the Kubernetes community. So it's great to have you both on today. So let's kick it off. Raffaele, you want to get us started, right? What are we talking about? Let's get in it.
Yeah, so today we would like to share with everybody an approach to onboarding teams on OpenShift. So let's define what that means, right? And we're going to propose a fully automated approach. So when we to onboard a team on OpenShift means to provisions all the namespaces, configurations, policies that are needed before a team can actually start to work on OpenShift. So what exactly those are depends on the specific requirements that you may have, but in general, it revolves around creating the correct groups, the correct airbag permissions for people in those groups, and then the correct namespaces, which probably map to environment in your software delivery lifecycle. And then, so you will have multiple namespaces per application. And then you have to configure those namespaces with the correct quotas, again, potentially correct, some more airbag permissions and network rules, firewall rules, and this kind of thing. In theory, when that is done, I, as a user, a developer, can log into OpenShift and be ready to go. Like if I have a pipeline, I can deploy and start running my application. Okay.
So for those of you who are running OpenShift 4, how many of you still have kubeadmin still enabled? Raise your hand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This
goes beyond that, much further beyond that.
I think the idea is, for the audience to understand is, right, we want you to use Kubernetes and we want you to use it safely. And this is a great way to start doing that. So if you're running with kubeadmin, kind of like with the scissors and running around kind of deal, be careful. But, there's maybe better ways for your organization to manage this. And this is kind of the topic today.
I mean, I don't mind having a nice banner at the top saying, this is a temporary password. You probably should go ahead and remove that and use a real identity provider. That's what we're going to walk through today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And it's probably important to highlight that if you have a multi-tenant deployment, which it's usually the case, it's usually what we build with our customers. You probably have a process to onboard teams. Okay, it may be more or less formalized, and it may be more or less automated, but you definitely have to have a process. Otherwise, it's going to be complete chaos after the 10 team joins. Right? It's you're going to lose control of the cluster. So you probably have a process. We would like to share a way to fully automate it, because that's where the rub is. I don't see a lot of customers have reached that level of automation where they don't have to worry about a new team onboarding, because when that situation happens, everything happens automatically and everything is configured consistently. Okay, so that's the objective of today. And we're going to try to decompose this problem into smaller things, smaller problems that we want to solve. Okay, so as we said, the objectives are full automation, and because we are in OpenShift, or in Kubernetes now, the approach is to build automation through operators, right? So it's going to be an operator-based approach. We want the team to be self-servicing everything that they need. There shouldn't be, our objective here is really to get to a zero ticket situation where I don't have to ever ask anyone to do anything for me via a ticketing system, okay? Full self-servicing, but at the same time, within the constraint of the policies and the compliance rules that are in the given organization or company. And then we want this to be low touch for the platform team, right? There's still a team that is managing the platform, but they shouldn't be, onboarding a new team shouldn't represent work for them or toil for them. It should be fully automated again. And then we want also some flexibility, right? Some ability to model complex configurations. And in the demo that we're going to give today, we have come up with a relatively complex scenario that we're going to see, and it's just there to showcase that you can actually model complex configurations.
It's complex because a lot of organizations that Raffaele and myself work in have complex processes, everything from auditing, compliance, to just organizational structure. So what we're trying to do is emphasize that not everyone has a simple, small, lean team of a few developers. Keyword lean. We want to showcase some of the experiences that we see in many organizations and how you can take advantage of those.
So we have decomposed the problem into three, or at least these were the three problems that we went through and we had to solve, really. And it took us, I would say, a year and a half of building these tools for ourselves and then putting them together to build this entire process. This is historically, this is an area where OpenShift as a product does not have features, right? It's where the idea is this is such a custom situation that it's difficult to come up with a feature. The customers will have to solve it by themselves. But over time, we have built these modular components that we can put now together in a flexible way and maybe cover. I think we can cover a lot of use cases this way. So the three problems that we have to solve are that there is a mismatch between how companies see themselves in terms of organizations and what OpenShift expects in terms of RBAC, role-based authorizations. I'm going to explain a little bit more what that means. Then we have to automate group and group membership sync from the IDP, that the identity provider that the company uses, to OpenShift. And then we have to automate the configurations of the namespaces. Okay. So for the first one, in general, what we see is that companies have a corporate LDAP, okay, which is the source of information with regard to the hierarchy of the company or the organization of the company. There could be another system feeding the LDAP, but the LDAP is our integration point, right? It's where we usually integrate OpenShift. And the LDAP, what we find is that usually contains hierarchy, so hierarchical information, and relatively coarse grain, okay? By that I mean you may find line of business concept you may find BU, maybe you find another layer, but not much more deeper than that, and not finer grained than that. On the other hand, OpenShift, first of all, has a flat system, because OpenShift, you attach roles and permission to essentially a namespace via using a three-way binding between our namespace, a role, and a group, right? And namespaces are not hierarchical; they are flat. So that's the first mismatch. The second mismatch is a namespace represents normally an SDLC environment, so a software delivery lifecycle environment. So it's really like the dev environment for an application, for application A. So that's much more granular level than a business unit, right? At least in this example that I have here on the picture, we have at least two levels that are missing. So we have, for example, line of business BU, and then teams and applications are not modeled in the corporate LDAP, and in OpenShift we need to model the application environment, right? So it's below the application even. So there is this feeling of a gap between what is modeled in the application, in the corporate LDAP, and what is modeled, and it is what is possible to model in OpenShift. And we over the last 3-4 years, we have somehow compromised with this gap. But if we recognize that there is a gap and we try to fit it with some tool, I think we can get better results. And that's what we're going to propose here. So here you could fill this gap in many ways, right? There's no, you could have your own way. This could be just a file in a Git repo managed with a GitOps approach, okay? But in our example, we are going to do this with Red Hat SSO, which is a Red Hat product, Red Hat single sign-on. It's a little jewel in our portfolio of products. Sometimes not well known, and it's free for people who have an OpenShift subscription. Okay, so it comes in the bundle of OpenShift.
Well, that's one of the benefits. Keycloak's only one of several components that come out of the box with your subscription. So take advantage of it. A lot of customers I know are like, "How much do I have to pay for it?" And I'm like, "You don't? Zero.
Zero. You just have to install it."
Exactly. So what we are gonna see in the first part of the demo is that we're gonna build a pretend company LDAP, okay, deployed inside of OpenShift. We're gonna create an instance of Red Hat single sign-on. The upstream is Keycloak that Andy mentioned, and then we are gonna import the existing organization from LDAP to Red Hat single sign-on. So we're going to see something like this after the import, okay? And then we're going to model the green piece that I was showing here, the missing piece inside of Red Hat SSO. So essentially we're going to augment the organization model to add a couple of layers, okay? So this is the first part of the demo. So now I'm gonna stop with the presentation and switch to the terminal.
Woohoo!
Yeah, who doesn't love some demos?
Let's make our sacrifices to the appropriate demo deities and everything.
Exactly.
And here we go. All right.
I have not tested this demo on this current cluster that
Sweet. This is how we roll.
It never goes down. Come on.
So we have good chances of actually encountering some issues and
good chances of excitement, you mean?
Exactly. So obviously I have some scripts here that I can copy and paste and to run some automation. The first one will just install this LDAP. It's pre-configured to load some data inside the LDAP database, and it was an interesting learning for me. You can create an LDIF file with all the information that you want to preload on LDAP. So I'm going to run that. Okay, and now it should be creating it. So let's check that we have some pods running. It's creating this, and after this is done, we should be able to connect to LDAP, to an LDAP UI. Let me see if there is a problem.
Clearly, we did not pray hard enough.
No. The GitHub repo.
Still,
Chat says maybe the GitHub repo.
I still.
You need
okay.
any
Super.
UID.
There we go. See,
There we
funny.
go. Okay. All right.
It was just downloading. So we should have, if I go to the routes, I have scripted also how to get the address, but we can just go here. And this is a simple UI for LDAP. We have to log in with a weird username.
And you wonder why we're using LDAP and not some other, authentication mechanisms. I gotta say, probably about 90% of the customers I go to, and Raffaele and I go to, they're still using LDAP for everything. So it's a good use case.
It's all LDAP all around.
Okay, so we can see that we have created some pre-populated some groups and some users. In this example, I have for each group, for each BU, so it's the second level group. We have line of businesses and BUs. For each BU, there is a manager with a name and some developers, but I didn't come up with names for the developers. They're just anonymous developers. There's no, this is just because I got lazy with coming up with names. It's not a reflection on my thought on developers. it's because at some point I ran out of fantasy and imagination. But so the point is we have people loaded in LDAP. The second step is going to create Red Hat, an instance of Red Hat SSO. To do that, we're going to use the Red Hat SSO operator, the Keycloak operator, which I think is going to become officially supported very soon, if I read correctly the news. And also has been released yesterday. So if something is going to break, it's probably going to be around here.
I always say live demos are better because things can break.
Right. Like
break.
Yeah.
if the expectation is something's going to break, then it's awesome.
I mean,
Okay.
I love cooking shows, but they.
I mean, I can pull a turkey out of the oven too.
All right. So we have should have some pods creating here. I don't see it deploying. Oh man, it's not deploying Keycloak. So let's see first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we have the right resource created correctly.
I don't know if any of you have actually gone through and looked at this Explore page. It is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I love this page. You can see all your resources on the cluster, search for them, and be able to modify them if you obviously have the permissions.
Okay, so I see it's initializing. So it was just because probably the operator was still booting. And we can see it's now, we have Postgres running and it's initializing Keycloak. This usually takes a while for Keycloak to become ready.
Once again, you say a while. I mean, how long would it take to go ahead, request a server, get a server, wait for it to actually get stood up and automated. I mean, Chris, you came from Ansible, you can do that pretty quickly, but still,
yeah,
it's a few minutes.
It's not, I mean, especially when you're like, okay, I'm going from nothing to, a fully distributed, deployed application. That takes a long time, right? Like, I mean, I've taken, some very, very large apps that have taken hours to upgrade, right? Like, it really depends on the actual tools you're using.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just spoiled because I'm used to Lightning.
Use OpenShift. I'm the same way.
Yeah, what is it? I get most of my clusters via push button these days, so I don't want to deal with toil, right? Like, if that makes sense, right? Like, we have made systems and put them in place here in Red Hat so that we can get what we need very quickly. We want everyone to do that for their business, right? Like, not necessarily exactly how we did it, but we have some tooling that can help you here. So it might take a few minutes, but guess what? That's awesome.
We can, while we're waiting, we can take a look at what it looks like to stand up a Keycloak. So Keycloak is not a complex application, but it has a couple of components. But with the operator, the only thing you need to do is, well, now this, we cannot see it very well. Let's look at it from here, maybe.
Whoa.
Oh, too small?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of see it.
I mean, no.
How about like this?
That's a little better.
More?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to stand up Keycloak, this is the only thing that we need to create. Okay. It's essentially, we want an instance. We could have more, right, for HA, and then the extension that we want to load. There are more features in this operator, but basically this is what we need. And then here, as you can see, I also have deployed a realm in Keycloak, which is essentially a domain for users. Okay, so it's, as of now, this realm is going to be empty, and we're going to populate it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go back to. Okay, so the next set of commands is about integrating Keycloak, Red Hat SSO, and LDAP. As you can see here, I'm taking the Keycloak password, and then I am, because I don't want to have to carry all those CLI commands on my laptop, I'm actually running those commands from the Keycloak pod itself. So I am connecting to the pod here, and first you have to log in. So I'm just logging in using their CLI. And then the next set of commands here is to process a template here, a small template, and then again running the Keycloak admin CLI to create what we have in this template. So let's open this template and see what we have here. This is role mapper. Okay, so this is essentially the configuration to map roles from LDAP to this domain. And we have to provide a couple of variables. This is actually the ID of the domain, if I remember correctly. And these are all the parameters. I'm just going over a little bit what we're doing. If you want to know more in detail, we can explore more. Just let me know from the chat. Okay.
It's not a full dog and pony show, only a partial.
It depends what people are interested in getting.
If you want to know more, put it in the chat.
Yes, exactly.
That was my point. Just making sure we have no errors.
I really wish I could.
You wish?
Well, there's a chat app I'm using right now that has no font size options. Super not helpful for me.
Okay. So now let's go to Keycloak, the UI. So as we should be able to find the route here. Okay, so we want to log in. And in this case, we have to use, well, I cannot click. Okay.
Fortunately, Keycloak is a little more secure than my luggage password of 1234.
I mean, my luggage password is slightly more complex, but I mean, how complex can it actually be? It is, you know, I mean, it was a major topic of Spaceballs.
Exactly.
So we're logging in as administrators of Keycloak, and we are directly into the OCP realm, but there is always the default realm, right? So now if we go to see the groups, probably they're not imported yet because the import function triggers every 5 minutes. But if I go here, this is essentially the connector to LDAP. We can test the connection, it's successful. We can test the authentication, it's successful. And then somewhere we can synchronize
At the bottom, yep.
all the users. And that should also
20 users. Awesome.
Yeah, 20 users. So we can see them here. These were the we have some developers and some users. This should also have synchronized the groups. So we have a slightly better view now than before on the LDAP UI because we can see the hierarchy, right? But still very coarse grain, right? So we want to get to the next level. This is the piece where, in theory, we are farming out. Sorry, let me go back to this. In theory, we are farming out this augmentation of the hierarchy to the owner of each of the leaves, right here. So take mortgages. So we could say to the mortgage owner or team administrator, we give you permission to create subgroups here, and these subgroups represent whatever you want. But you know, if there is a standard in the company, they could be your team, and then they could be your applications or your microservices. And then this owner is also in charge of assigning the people in this sub branch of the hierarchy to the more you know, to the individual application or to the individual development teams. So this way we farm out the administration of the finer layer of the hierarchy, and we don't have to have a central team that does that, because like I said, we want to avoid developers opening tickets, right? So we want to farm this piece out.
No, there's still someone that has to organize all of this. I feel so sorry for them because.
Well, somebody, yeah.
Well, yeah, eventually, yeah. I mean,
there is some input that has to be given at some point of the process, right? But the point is, we want to move this responsibility to the people that need to do it, and not ask them to open a ticket, right? So they can do it by themselves. In this demo, we don't show this piece. We have a script that automates the augmentation. But I have talked to the Keycloak developers. Some of the advanced features of Keycloak really allow you to do this. So you could configure Keycloak so that I am, for example, the owner of mobile banking, and when I log in, I can only see, maybe I see the entire hierarchy, but I can only manage this piece of the hierarchy based on the permission that were given to me. Okay, so this is not in the demo, but just know that Keycloak could do that if you want to do that, if you want to be able to do that. All right, so the next piece, and sometimes I cannot click on this. The next click is really to do the augmentation. So we have a script here that should take care of that, and it's going to take 5 minutes. This will create subgroups and also create some metadata for these groups, and will assign people to these groups. So we let the script run, and then we go back to the Keycloak UI to see what happened.
So in the 5 minutes, hey Chris, do we have any comments in the chat right now?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, Rockhound's asking, is this for like HR, or I mean, we don't see companies doing like having their HR doing IT onboarding type stuff. So this whole demo is essentially for.
Well, sometimes yes, because they have to bucket them into the proper group. So
well, yeah, they have to. There'll be someone in HR that creates an account or something maybe, and then put them in the right place. But then that's kind of where like there's all this other toil that's involved in getting that person into all the appropriate places development wise or production wise, right? Like getting them in the right environments, putting them in the right groups across the organization, right? Across your Kubernetes clusters, your whole fleets. Like that's where this comes in, correct?
So the idea of
this demo, this whole workshop today,
the idea of HR is HR will directly or indirectly manage LDAP, right? Or better, LDAP is the configuration that you see in LDAP is the result of what HR has done. We need to go deeper than that. We need to go more.
Right, like
more
HR's plugging something
granular.
into their, resource management system, human resource management system that then creates this account,
right?
This LDAP group.
Say somebody is hired.
So we need to continue that thread, right?
Right. HR will. And
they'll fill out a form in some system somewhere saying, yes, they want insurance and all this other stuff, and this is their address and everything else, and what team they're on.
Let's say this person is hired and hired by the lending team is going to be in this group, right? It's going to have an account. It's going to be a user.
There'll be someone in that team that has an account, or will this be HR then dumping them into this account
indirectly?
Yeah,
because of what HR does, these people will get an account in LDAP and will be in the lending group team. Okay, so that's what we can expect from HR. But then the lending group team, the lending group line of business or business unit, let's say, has many applications. In which application is this new person going to work for the next 3 months? HR does not care.
Has no idea.
There's no idea, and
they plug the address in. They plugged in their personal details, and off they went.
They don't need to know. But we would like to go a little bit deeper with these levels of granularity, because that's how we want to be able to model our permissions inside of OpenShift, right? So we want to do that without having to touch the corporate LDAP, because that would be knowledge, or let's say information that is specific for OpenShift. It's just to be consumed by OpenShift. But if we put it in LDAP, it will be visible by all the application, and it will clutter. I mean, if all the applications started to do that, LDAP would be just a mess, right? So we need to add these additional layers in a way that can be managed by the right people, not HR, but the people that are actually responsible for lending. So here there is a manager for the lending BU. It will know where you need to work for the next 3 months.
Or team leaders, somebody that has the authorization. Yeah.
Right. And we want to do that without impacting all the applications around OpenShift, right? Just be consumed by OpenShift. This information is just consumed by OpenShift. Or maybe OpenShift and a few other, but not necessarily everybody, right? Every application. So let's see what happens after the augmentation phase. That's how I call it. So in this little demo, okay, in this model, we have augmented the retail banking business unit. And we have said that there are 3 teams below this business unit. There is the online service team, which is the one that creates the mobile app and the banking
Can you make your
application.
font size bigger since we're
Oh, yeah.
going deeper and deeper down this hole?
Oh, because when I open a new window, I don't get the right
Yeah.
fonts. Let me see. Shift, Control, Shift. No. Okay.
Probably should ask for that sooner. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's. Please keep reminding me. So we have, for example, the online service team. They create the banking, online banking application. Okay, and they have a few microservices below them that they manage. And then we have the alerts team. This is the one that sends you the SMS alerts or the notifications. And then there is the acquisition team, which manages a different application that it's just the one that you use when you open a new account. Okay. As you can tell, I have been working in this kind of organizations. So now we have extended the original LDAP with more fine-grained organization, and I'm not sure if there's a way to see this, but this group may also have some attributes. For example, we say that the online banking bill pay service is a large application, is an application, okay, and is a large application. Okay, so we added some a few information, a few pieces of information. And I think if we go to this level up group, we have maybe some members. No, I didn't add any metadata to this one. Okay. So maybe I'm pretty sure I have members somewhere. Okay, so the developers are added directly to the services they're working on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in theory, the job that the online banking administrator did was to say, well, I'm running these 3 teams. Inside these 3 teams, I have this actual application that needs to be, developed and delivered. So they are on different, different deliverables, and they follow different delivery cycle. And I have developers assigned to each of these applications. Okay, so he's a manager and he's assigning his developers to each of these applications. So this is the job that we want to farm out to the individual team leader and team manager. In this case, we just have an automation to do it. Okay.
Cool.
So this concludes the first part of the demo. Let me make sure of that, but I think that's right. Yeah. Well, we can also do the OCP Red Hat SSO integration. So this piece makes it so that when we log into OpenShift, we have an option to log into Red Hat SSO as the IDP OAuth provider. So I'm going to run this.
Once again, if you're smart and remove that cube admin, you'd have another option. If you haven't, you're just going to get the cube admin.
Okay. We can give it a few minutes to work, but essentially now, if I go to, let's open a new window, and I log out from here. I was expecting to find another provider here.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go ahead and restart those OAuth pods.
Yeah. I don't know if the pods would actually pick it up. Would it?
It should.
But
in theory, unless it's being slow.
Well, let's troubleshoot a little bit. So how do you troubleshoot these kind of issues? Well,
Right.
you go to the cluster setting and the global configuration, I think.
So, Rockhound, yes, to answer your question, this does provide an additional authentication method on the console. So it'll be another provider.
Yeah. So what we want to make sure is, so I have my password, password file authentication, so I can say Raf instead of remembering the admin password. And then we have the new one that we added through this script, which is the one that connects to Keycloak,
Yeah.
which is an OpenID type, right? OIDC type of provider. Now, why is it not working? Let me try again, because it seems everything's okay.
There it goes.
You just had to hit refresh.
Right.
Yeah, it looks
Again.
Or
One
like
refresh,
all
two
my
refresh sold.
All my Windows laptops just restart it.
So at this point, we have integrated a new authentication provider, but the users that are coming from that authentication providers have no permissions, right? So if I log in right now, I think I can log in with a developer. I think they all have password dev. Well, we shouldn't see error. We should see empty, right? We should see that there is nothing here for us to
It says please log out and try again. Maybe you have to hit refresh or something.
Yeah, that's. Oh wow.
Got a cookie or something somewhere.
Oh, it's still me. See, it's log out. Okay, this time dev.
There we go.
I'm a bit surprised by this behavior, but
it means it worked.
Yeah, it worked. So we can see that now we can log in through Keycloak, right? Which is essentially wrapping our LDAP, but we use the password that was in LDAP to log in, and but we don't have any permission, so we cannot see anything. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation and explain the next steps. Okay, so the second piece of the puzzle here is how to sync the groups that are coming from external identity providers with OpenShift. And OpenShift does handles this problem slightly differently than Kubernetes, where in Kubernetes, if you authenticate with an external provider, you actually Kubernetes will trust the claim that are passed by the external provider, and groups membership are as some of the claims that are being passed. In OpenShift, there is an actual internal authentication or auth authenticator, and the initial authentication that you do with an external provider is just to prove your identity, but not to prove your claim. And so you have to, and so in OpenShift, we have to store groups and users inside OpenShift, and they are stored in etcd. And for users, it's easy because users are created at login time. For the first time that you log in, a user is also created. But groups have to be synchronized, or the groups have to be created, but it makes sense to synchronize them from some source of truth or system of record. Historically, in OpenShift, we have only supported synchronizing group with LDAP. Okay, and so, but now customers are starting to use other identity provider, not just LDAP. And yeah, we were joking before. Yeah, it's mostly LDAP, and that's true. But we are seeing more and more OIDC providers now becoming.
I mean, when OpenShift first came out, we actually had no group sync. It was from feedback from a lot of organizations who used LDAP that original feature of synchronizing LDAP groups into OpenShift was actually created. We take your feedback to heart. Come get it.
So we felt a little bit of a gap, and Andy here decided to develop the group sync operator. So I'll let him talk about it for a while. Andy, go ahead. And
yeah.
So really, a lot of my customers, as Raffaele mentioned, are moving away from LDAP. You know, LDAP is still very prevalent, but they are seeing other alternatives, whether it be, you know, mainly OpenID Connect, but other providers like GitHub, GitLab, and a lot of the other supported components that OpenShift natively supports, but they always run into an issue of, okay, I can authenticate, but as we saw earlier, I have no access. I have to go ahead and, you know, jury rig this together and somehow try to synchronize it. That's a pain. Let's go ahead and use the same model that OpenShift 4 uses and use an operator. So we can go ahead and provide a pluggable implementation that allows you to integrate a number of OpenShift's native authentication and identity providers. So Raffaele, why don't you just click on the link there and you can just go to the GitHub page. And we have some nice documentation. And I'm still getting used to this.
I'll make it bigger.
I'm still getting used to the new UI of GitHub.
UI changing like in the past 24 hours, like kind of like jarring, but yeah, I had to figure out where some new buttons were this morning. It's like, oh, I woke up early to work on learning the new GitHub UI.
Yeah, exactly. Or I thought I was just lucky and they happened to get me for a canary test. I guess I'm special. I got the new UI, but
apparently you could opt into it earlier or something.
Okay.
I did not get the message or did not see that when it first came out, but I guess they'd been telegraphing this for a while now.
I missed the memo.
Yeah, same here. Oh well.
All right. Anyways, really, this group sync operator allows you to integrate a number of different providers. Like as you saw in our cluster currently, we are using technically two and then an asterisk identity providers. We have the HD password, which allows you to define a flat structure for your users. Then you have Keycloak, Red Hat SSO, which we helped set up. Then you also have the asterisk, which is the cube admin. But the idea is that you can integrate a number of those identity providers into a way that you can synchronize the users into groups that are already defined out in those providers. So as you see here, we support a number of them right now. Azure, GitHub and GitLab are huge, because I know a lot of people are organizing their teams in GitHub. And we took a lot of the same concepts that a lot of other components in the community use. So you can synchronize certain like organizations in GitHub, but also filter on teams. So let's say you have a big organization, but you only want a subset of those members to get access to your cluster. So let's say I have a dev team. I only want to give access to my dev team. Actually, a better one is my QE team. I have a QE team. I don't want anyone else getting the access to there except for the QE guys and gals. I can go ahead and say, okay, allow those from the my org QE, and they only get access to it, and everyone else just gets that wonderful, sorry, don't get access. So we are actually leveraging the Keycloak Red Hat SSO provider, and it's really, really easy. If you just scroll down to the configuration section, you can basically just set up a secret that contains how the heck do I authenticate to get to Keycloak, and then from that, you can go ahead and say what groups we should go ahead and allow, what realm we want to synchronize. So Keycloak has a way that you can organize your organization even higher into realms. So let's say you had a North American organization and maybe a European, you can put them into different realms so they're completely isolated.
Sorry, can you increase the font size again?
Yep, will do. Better?
There you go. Thank you.
So you can go ahead and set that up. You can, I always like to bring in scope. Scope is a way that you can, this is an old LDAP, and this kind of goes into the hierarchy, only do the top level and don't do any of the nested subgroups. We support that. As well as, this is one that always bites me on a lot of open source software, is that, they assume that we all have signed certificates from public CAs. In organizations, this is not the case. If you're a developer, please keep that in mind. have a way that you can provide a certificate so that for those who have their own CA or aren't using a public CA, you can at least be able to feed that in. So we support that as well for all these enterprise use cases. So from that, all you need to do is, but if you happen to not at least have an ignore function, don't do it, but at least have it out there. You can test it out. So for this example, this is as simple as it can be. It's another custom resource called the group sync. Allows you to specify one or more providers. And for Keycloak, you specify the realm, what secret you want to use to authenticate against Keycloak, and where the heck is Keycloak located? In the cluster? Does it happen to be on a separate server? You can support any one of those options. I'm going to turn it back over to Raffaele, who can kind of walk through more of the demo.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so in particular for this demo, we are going to use the feature of the operator that allows you to sync metadata and hierarchical information. So, so those little pieces of metadata that we saw before will be annotations in the group that we import from that import to OpenShift. And we also get some information about who is the parent or parents of the group and who are the children of the groups. So we can use, in theory, by importing metadata into OpenShift around the groups, you could, think about developing operators that navigate the hierarchy and do something about that. Today, like I was saying today, that up until today it wasn't possible because it's in OpenShift everything is very flat, right? There is no concept of hierarchy. So that opens options for us. So in this part of the demo, we're going to build this second piece where we deploy the group sync operator. Here this is a logical diagram, right? But the operator is obviously running inside of OpenShift, and its job is to sync groups. And then, well, again, as we saw before, we can already log into OpenShift, okay, as users. So let me go back to the screen, to the console. So first of all, we need to deploy the operator, which we can simply do like this. I want to show you how to deploy an operator from the CLI because everybody knows how to do it from Operator Hub, which is very convenient. But if you are trying to automate everything, maybe with a GitOps approach, you need to be able to do it from from API.
Yeah.
And so this is how you do it. You first, for this kind of operators, you can simply create an operator group with a target namespace where you want to deploy the operator, or actually where you want the operator to watch. But really, usually it's the same namespace where you are deploying also the operator. And then you create a subscription with the metadata regarding the specific operator that you want to deploy. I usually, to get this information, I usually deploy an operator once through OLM, through the Operator Hub, look at the subscription that is created, and then script it for my, for my needs. But this is the only thing you need to do to deploy an operator using the API. And then this is our configuration for the group sync operator. So it's very similar to the example that we saw before. There is a secret, there is the URL for Keycloak, and there is a sync period. So should we change anything on Keycloak, every 5 minutes, this is going to resync all of the groups. Okay, so at this point, I think the operator triggers immediately. Oh no, we have to. Well, it should be.
And it should be.
Should be already.
Yeah, it should happen. Like it should be running.
No,
right?
I think
you can blame me now. I'm sure it's
we
my
have
fault.
to. No, we have to deploy the group sync.
To actually tell it what groups to sync.
We have to tell it to actually sync something, right?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
The thing is there that can sync something. Now
Yeah,
tell it to sync something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the operator is pretty quick. So it's probably already synced, so we can go and do a C get groups from here. So here we are administrators, so we're going to see everything that exists. Nothing yet.
Not yet, I guess. Make sure the operator is running. Make sure the operator is running.
Yeah. Let's go. Make sure everything is fine. Which we have established that is the fun part. So let me see. So I go to workloads.
And he's got some fans out there.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm not.
Alyssa Pellick's tuning in from Facebook Live. Hello,
Alyssa. There's Alyssa. Hi, Alyssa.
For folks who don't know, Alyssa is the one that wrangles all of the fun summit workshops for us this year. So she and I have been working together a lot, and it's been like really enjoyable to like see how the sausage is made for workshops. So especially on the large scale like summit.
Wrangle a lot of folks.
I don't know how she does it. I really don't know how she does it.
Okay, we have some errors, I think.
Oh. If you want to decrease your font size, you can actually see the whole error or whatever.
Secret not found.
Secret not found?
Secret set up?
Secret not found? Is that the error?
Yep.
Group sync not found. Okay.
All right. So we need to have a secret. We should have a secret here. But it's not.
At the bottom.
No, I only see the normal. Oops.
Oh, did we forget?
Okay, so let me see. Let me go back to the demo. What should I create? Maybe I skipped a step here.
Yeah, did you not create a secret somewhere?
Oh, it's here. Let's see, create secret. Let me see. Did it fail? Did that line fail?
No, it's created.
Did you go in a different namespace?
It went on Keycloak operator namespace. And
double check that.
No, it should be fine. Namespace Keycloak. Okay, so we need to check that is in the Keycloak operator namespace.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. The secret is called Keycloak group sync.
Oh, there it is.
Here. And looks good.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So should I go back to the pod?
Yeah, why not?
What's going on here?
Worst case, Windows kill the pod. Try again.
Yeah. Start.
Let me see. Let me decrease the font.
Yeah, you gotta read it. But just tell her what the problem. Tell us what the problem is, please.
Yeah.
So everybody.
Server rejected event.
Oh no.
So that's not a problem, right?
It's a go error. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, scroll on over, see what that is.
Whoa.
Let's say you just couldn't create the event, but in theory, it should still be able to see the secret.
All right.
Okay, so let's try to understand what the event was first, because maybe there is some information there.
Debugging is half the battle, so if you haven't had a chance to debug Go errors, this is fantastic.
Yes. This is quite the error, too. Holy smokes. Cannot create resource events and API group and namespace default.
Default. Where did you deploy the operator?
Did you deploy the operator on accident to default?
Yeah.
No, it's in group sync.
Yeah, it's in group sync. It's in default, though.
Why is it saying default?
Yeah.
Didn't you actually specify on the command line the namespace? I could have sworn you did.
Yeah, no, this I think this is something that has changed in the API to create an event, I guess.
And in theory, they shouldn't even have the event because it's bombing because it couldn't with the secret. So in the end, it couldn't set the secret up properly.
Where do you see that we have a problem with the secrets? Because I don't see that.
Scroll over to the left. Let's start over. Nope, you're right. Not this time. Before we saw it, I swear we saw it. Remember?
All right, let's do this. Let's restart the pod and see.
Yeah,
from a clean,
let's clean slate this thing.
a clean.
Come on, you pod. Okay, good. Good.
Getting warmer.
Okay, so it found it. It did something.
Yeah, it's still bombing though.
It's still bombing though. Okay, so wait a minute.
So it found the thing that we have created, right, to reconcile.
But see, it says
Yeah.
error secret keycloak.
Wait.
So it's
Server
the
rejected.
second line there,
Yeah.
all the way to the right.
Yeah, it says secret
Error,
not found.
Secret keycloak group causes error. Keycloak group sync not found. Where was it looking for it? Is the question.
$100,000 question there.
Yeah.
Worst case, throw it into the group sync project just in case.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, what version of the operator are you deploying?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. What is coming down from Operator Hub? What is the best way to look at that?
Go ahead and number one, look at the pod. Look at the pod
Yeah.
for the operator and take a look and see what version is going.
Look at the YAML. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All that metadata that it adds.
Yeah. I'm just gonna make something explode.
See. Wait, couldn't you just search
002? Is it right? The right one?
Yep, that should be the right one.
Okay.
Well,
Worst case. I don't advise doing this in a production cluster. Go ahead and just give that dang service account, elevated rights.
yeah. I
Okay,
mean,
we're gonna.
Yeah, we want to see it actually work, and then we can go back
Yeah.
in. This is the best part about open source. Add an issue, we'll get it fixed.
yeah.
No, not SCC.
No, sorry.
No.
Group?
Add cluster role to user.
No.
Once again, development cluster, don't recommend doing this, so keep that in mind.
Don't try this at home, kids.
But this is why you test in a lower level environment, find all the bugs, and then fix them.
Or you watch the live stream and we find the bugs.
That's true. Very true.
So the service account is this one?
Yep.
Oh.
Like, I remember I saw this issue before, so this isn't the first time I've seen it. I thought I fixed it. Blame the creator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen this before.
Okay.
Cool. Let's see if it's already able to fix itself, or we have to.
Okay. I got that. Until I got a back off timeout. Just go ahead. You can just kill it.
Yeah. But I see it's not. It's not scrolling arrows anymore, so I think it worked. But I can restart it.
I'd like to restart it because it gives a nice ability to see exactly what.
Right, like let's see the progression.
Clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta keep everyone on their toes, right?
Yeah. I know that aired out too.
Oh man, what is this?
So this is, once again, it's because the secret's not found. We now got past the API issue of not being able to create the event, but still, in the end,
it's still not finding the request namespace, request name, Keycloak. Okay, so reconciling.
Where is he looking for the secret though?
Error secret group. So Keycloak group sync, is that in? We found that, right? That's in this group, this project, right?
So if you put namespace, I've seen this error. As I go look at my.
Wait, is Keycloak group sync supposed to be hyphenated? request
Yes,
name.
I think so.
Or no, that's
Yeah,
the function.
it's this one. Yes. So
Yeah. Okay, so that's fine.
And the Keycloak
This is where I go to where I go look at my local repository and see a bunch of uncommitted changes, right?
Are you serious?
I don't know. I'm checking right now.
That'd be funny.
No, but,
I mean, this demo has worked.
No, I know it's worked.
Different
but
clusters. So at some point, this operator was fine.
So
yeah, because that's the thing. It was working, and I know you've had it working on an O2, right?
Go to secrets. Let's make
But
sure it's
something's
there
not
again.
right.
Keycloak group sync is the name of the secret, correct?
Yeah, this is the name of the secret.
Okay, so let's go look at secrets real quick.
Okay. We already saw that the secret was.
I'm pretty sure we did, but why not? Just to prove. Keycloak group sync. So does it need to be in the other project?
Well, the problem I'm running into, if you go back to the error, it's blank in namespace. You look at the namespace,
right,
it's
like
blank.
Yeah, like that was the other thing.
So it's not reading.
It's not finding it because it's not looking in the right place.
Right.
I
have an idea. I still have the. I think I still have the code of when I was playing with this.
Okay.
So I'm gonna cheat here and run the operator from my laptop.
Hey, it works. How many of you are in a demo who are good at giving demos? Being able to just pull things out of a hat. I know I do.
It's okay. I think it's interesting to see this kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to my Go. Let's see.
So what we're doing now is, for those of you who have never done Go development, we're actually going to run an operator locally on his laptop connecting to that cluster and to be able to see this thing work. But most importantly here, if you are doing this, make sure, or in general, don't run two instances of an operator.
Yeah.
Fight with each other.
Okay, so I'm just looking for the right way to start the operator, which I think it's at the end. Should we?
Yeah, it's at the
Local
bottom.
development. Okay.
Once again, got to spin down the other operator.
And as you saw, I scaled to 0. So, okay, so I'm running the operator from here.
Well, I've never seen this done before.
Yeah. I know you've had the Ansible operators before. This is Go operators.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I usually test Ansible operators
and they see
molecule, right?
It worked. Oh, there you go.
It works.
Well, now wait a minute.
Okay. So you see, it was able to find the secret and authenticate to Keycloak, and it found 25 groups to sync. So now, if we go here, and we did what we were trying to do before.
You know, I was going to have a night, but now I have to go look and debug this. Thanks a lot, Ross.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say, Andy, you got another issue.
add it to my list.
Yeah, add it to the stack.
Okay, so we see all the high-level group. Here we have all the groups that were in Keycloak. We see them in a flat view, but if we go inside one single group, for example, we can go to this one. There will be some metadata. Okay. For example, we can see that the children are this one, and the parent is retail banking. Okay.
Beautiful.
And then we can see that we have 5 developers. Now let me find another one. I want to show you the actual metadata. So I'm going to take this one. Here we can see that this is a type application. This group represents an actual application and people working on this application, and is a size smalls. So in the next step of this demo, we're going to see how we use this metadata to configure the namespaces correctly. Because these are hints for the namespace configuration operator.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good here.
Yes, we are.
we can go back to our presentation. This is so we solved the same problem now. The second problem, which is now we have a consistent way of authenticating and managing group membership, with the additional nice feature of having the right some metadata coming from the IDP. Now we need to actually configure the namespaces. Okay, so now we would like these namespaces to be provisioned automatically and also configured. What do we mean by configure? Usually, these are the things that you will typically. This is what we find that customers want to configure. So, permissions, obviously, quota. It's self-explanatory, right? And then we have network policies. Could be that they want a static and enforced configuration of network policies, or it could be that you just want to give a sane, default to start with, but then the teams are in charge of configuring their own network, firewall rules. And then egress network policies. On this one, by design already in OpenShift, this can only be managed by administrators. So these are the ones that are probably going to be enforced if they exist. And then, could be anything, but I'm just saying these are the most frequent. Okay.
Right.
So for this step, we use the namespace configuration operator. This is an operator that will react to the creation of users, groups, or namespaces. So it watches for those objects, and you can configure it to create arbitrary objects based on those objects. So let's take a look at the project, on GitHub, just to explain a little bit. So let's say we want to react to groups, because that's what we have just created. Okay, through the groups config operator. So you could configure something like this. Okay, this is the user. Sorry, this should be, well, I don't have an example for group. Okay, so let's do user. Sorry, let's do user. So let's say we want to create a namespace for each user that logs in, because we're doing a sandbox environment, let's say, and everyone should have their own experimentation namespace. So what we could do is to say, when you see a user logging in from, in this case, we have an Okta provider, not even not Red Hat SSO, but let's say it's an Okta provider logging in, and it has the label sandbox enabled true, create a namespace. Okay, and then we would probably need something more here. We should also give the user some permissions on that namespace. But as you can see, we can just create a list of objects here that will be created by this operator. And notice that it's a template. So if I have 100 users, this template will be run 100 times, only changing obviously the name. And so I will have
and then in addition, we already looked at Go development and how to go ahead and build an operator using Go. This is using Go templates. So it allows you to merge in the configuration of the namespace with this template. So it's basically saying, okay, take the namespace as it comes in, or the part of the user, and go ahead and, because I thought it's a user config, and take the name and create a new namespace called whatever that username is, -sandbox. Everyone gets their own sandbox, personally made for them.
That's awesome.
Right. Thank you. And I want to spend a minute talking about the requirements that we gave ourselves in this demo. Okay, so these are the policies that the namespaces and the users that connect to OpenShift and the namespace that we create have to comply with. So these basically are the rules of engagement, right, for our OpenShift cluster. So each application needs to be provisioned with 4 SDLC environments with the following naming convention. So there will be a name and then -build, dev, QA, and prod. Everyone in the dev team should have view access to all the environments of all the application in the dev team. In the same dev team. So what I mean by that, maybe I could have expressed it better, but what I mean is, if I am a developer in any of these in any of these groups in this dev team, I should be able to see everything in this dev team.
You definitely have read-only access to everything.
Yeah, but I shouldn't be able maybe to see the other ones, right?
Right.
And then everyone on specifically assigned to an app should have added. Okay, every person that is specifically assigned to an app should have added access to the SDLC environments of that specific app. So if I am a developer in this namespace, in this group, I should have added to the SDLC environments that are created out of this group, but only view to the other. Basically, those are the two first rules. And then the build environment is the only one where builds can run. Okay, we don't want builds running anywhere else. The builds need to talk to the corporate Nexus. In this example, we're using Nexus for our, assets and libraries, and the corporate GitLab where the sources are. Okay, so we have two DNS here names, and those are the only thing that those should be allowed from the build and namespaces. Any other communication must be stopped. So you cannot connect to anything else from the build and namespaces. The dev and QA environment can establish connection with the internal corporate network. This is the CDR of the network. And the corporate nexus for image pooling. The prod environment can only talk to the prod network. Okay, we pretend there is another network, and the PCI network, and pretend there is another network, and the corporate nexus for image pooling. Everything else should be stopped. Okay, so we are trying to be very, very strict in terms of outbound connections from these namespaces. Each product will have a default network policy by which pods are allowed to communicate only within the namespace and receive connection from the router pods. Basically, this is to emulate the multi-tenant behavior that we had in OpenShift 3. It's basically so we're saying as a default you get the multi-tenant behavior, but then the owner of the namespaces are allowed to modify those policies.
I mean, this is one of the areas that I know a lot of teams still are struggling to understand. It's just simple network segmentation. They say, okay, I can see this namespace, but why can't I talk across it? Because at least in OpenShift 3, it was isolated per namespace. OpenShift 4, there's a new SDN plugin called Network Policies that basically allows you to be even more finely granular into the different policies that you can apply for the communication, which is great because you may only want your web app talking to your database and nothing else.
And then continuing, the build projects will receive very limited quotas. So there is a fixed size quota for all the build projects, and it's very little. The dev and QA projects will share a multi-project quotas. So you can create a multi-project quotas across a set of projects that the developer can allocate based on their needs. But we, as administrator, we don't care if you use a lot of your share of quota in QA and nothing in dev, or vice versa. Basically it's a single pool for dev and QA. The multi-project quota can be chosen at project creation among 3 t-shirt sizes, and that's the hint that we have on the group
cool.
metadata.
Nice.
And then the prod project will receive its own quota, so we don't want to share quota between pre-prod and prod, right? But we still want to have some quota. And again, the quota can be chosen at project creation. And then the dev, QA, and prod project will be assigned egress IPs. And we assume that the egress IP IPAM operator is installed. This is another operator that will assign egress IPs to namespaces. Why do we want to do that? Because if you have an egress IP assigned to your namespace, you can identify outbound traffic based on the IP. Basically, that IP becomes the identity of your namespace and can be used for outbound connection to configure firewall rules for your outbound connection. So let's say only application A should be able to connect to an Oracle database. Now application A is identifiable with an IP. Okay. So go back to our presentation.
Andy, have you seen anybody using this with ACM yet?
Not yet. I know ACM, for those of you who don't know what ACM is Red Hat.
Sorry, Advanced Cluster Management.
I mean, I'm fine with acronyms too. I mean,
yeah, my bad.
Everyone has them. This is Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes. It allows you to connect multiple OpenShift clusters, but even beyond multiple OpenShift clusters, you can go ahead and connect any type of Kubernetes clusters, whether they be in the cloud, standalone, etc. They are very much into GitOps and the GitOps model. Mm-hmm. So we have a great team that's working on that right now, and they're working also with the Red Hat developer team to be able to really showcase how to use GitOps properly. You know, Chris and I have been on a few meetings earlier in the week.
Yeah, no. So yeah, if you're wondering about ACM right now, next Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1500 UTC. We'll be talking with the technical marketing manager of ACM himself, Jimmy Alvarez. So super excited to finally have him on the channel and get him teaching us all the things ACM. He said he needed 3 hours, and I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. And we might only cover we might only cover one of the buckets of ACM even. So it could be pretty intense. It could turn into its own series.
That's what I'm saying. It's a series. Have one on GitOps, one on governance and policy. That's a big one.
Yeah. So we'll see how far we can get on Tuesday, and then we'll go from there, but everybody's trying to get their feet wet with ACM right now. So we definitely hear you, and we'll have content in the pipeline for sure. Is ACM available to public? Yeah, it's GA. No, it's tech preview. Sorry. Yep. I always live in the future here.
I think it's
I feel like yes.
The days are blending together, so I look at my calendar saying, okay, what day is it?
Let me ping. I can find out.
I'll look.
It's not GA though.
It's not GA
for sure. No. But I mean, reach out to your rep if you have one, or not if you have one. If you're a Red Hat customer, you can reach out to your person that you usually talk to about Red Hat things and ask them about it, and they'll be able to hook you up potentially.
Okay. So in the third part of the demo, we are going to install the namespace configuration operator, set up some configurations, and then it will react to them and create the necessary resources. And then we will try to conclude the demo by logging in as one of those users and see that we only see the right things based on the on the configuration that we have, on requirements that we have explained, and that we can immediately start working if we wanted to. Okay, so let's go back to the script.
I'm backing up on chat here.
I'm going to deploy the operator.
The date is planned. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just reading the chat out loud. My bad.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so it's the same procedure. We create an operator group and a subscription, and the operator should be already being deployed. And now we have a bunch of configurations. I'm going to show some of them. I don't think it makes sense to show all of them. I think you will pick up very quickly how this works. Let's take a look at this one. If I remember correctly, this one is the one that creates the namespaces based on the groups. Okay. I'm going to go on the code. Just remember. Okay, so I need to close this. Okay, so we are going to watch for groups, okay? And we are going to match all the groups that have the type application as their annotation. If you remember, some of the groups had that annotation. In particular, the groups that were at this level, the services, had that annotation, okay? So here we are selecting only those groups. And then what do we do with those groups? Remember, we essentially run a template merge with these templates, and the parameter of the template is the group itself, okay? And so what do? We create a namespace, and this namespace as well, we create the build, the dev, and the QA namespaces, okay? So each the 4 SDLC namespaces, but then we also add some annotations. And for example, we add just some record to say this is the app name, where name is actually the name of the group, right? So and then we add the team, which we can figure out by using the hierarchy parent annotation, right? So we can go up one layer and say, okay, this application is really managed by this team, right? So by using that, we're going basically, if this is the group that is being synced, we are going up one level and looking at this name. And then what do? Then we add the type. Okay. This kind of metadata is then going to be used again by the same operator when we actually go and configure the namespace. So maybe in the next example, we will see how we use this metadata. Let's take a look at another one. For example, let's take a look at prod. So prod, we name it prod, obviously. Team and app, we have already explained. We say that this is of type run. Remember that we had a rule that said builds are allowed to run only on namespaces, on the build namespaces. So we're going to latch on this label to apply that configuration that says that prevents build from running into other namespaces that are not of type build. So we need to call these namespaces something else, so we call them run. And then we specify that this is stage prod. We specify the size, and the size was chosen by the developers, right?
Right.
So we look at the annotation of the group where the team administrator or the developer has chosen the size for this particular namespace. Based on this, there will be a rule that creates the right quotas, right? And then we have this annotation here, which is the one that assigns the egress IP. Let's go and take a look at the quota configuration. So we have two configurations for quota. For project quota, we have the build configuration, and then we have the prod configuration. Remember that the dev and QA they don't get an individual quota, they get a multi-project quota. So how does it work? Well, again, this time we are watching for namespaces, and we select all the namespaces that have the type build. Okay, so that's the annotation, the label type of build. So that's the label that we assigned before when we created the namespace. And then we say we want to build a resource quota object, and these are the dimensions or the sizes. Okay, so relatively small. Doesn't really matter. This is your decision.
Yeah. Example.
Yeah, it's an example. And then for the prod, we are going to create different quota rules. One that selects project of type run in stage prod and of size small, right? And we'll assign a small quote, and then we have the medium, and then we have the large, because this is three we have only 3 t-shirt sizes. Okay. We can make another example with, for example, the network policy. Okay. So here we have, well, we are selecting everything here actually. So basically anything that is in type run or build. So basically everything that we have created will get this default network policy, which is the multi-tenant essentially. As we can see, you can only talk to yourself or in the same namespace, or receive connection from the namespaces that are annotated this way, which is what the ingress namespaces where ingresses are deployed. Let's take another one. Let's take the multi-project quota. Okay, so this will be applied to, I have a feeling something is missing here. Okay, this will be applied to the project that are of type application and are small, and well, and it will create a small quota, and then those that are medium will create a medium quota, and those that are large will create a large quota. But I feel like I may have a bug here, because this should select only the
It's a long
dev and QA, right?
of the demos today, right?
Yeah, but no, but I mean, it's an opportunity to talk about how this work. I could, you know, I need to add another annotation selector here that better selects exactly the projects that I want. But we had enough metadata to do that, right? I think we showcased almost all of them. We could look at the egress, rules. In case
what do you have in there?
You know, this is not a common object because it's OpenShift specific, but it allows you to control outbound traffic from a namespace. So if you remember the rule we said that from build, you could only talk to the Nexus and to the GitLab. So that's how you can do it.
Nice.
Okay. And then we said from projects that are in dev and QA. So this is the annotation I feel was missing before, right? It's the selector to narrow down on dev, only dev and QA, excluding prod. So we said we were going to connect to Nexus, but also to the internal network identified by this header.
I'm a huge fan of those matching rules that they have in Kubernetes. I mean, that allows you to be really, really flexible about how you want policies and be able to, as we've shown, tag your different resources effectively and be able to grab them.
And this one is for prod. Yeah, I like them too, and very easy to use from the code perspective also. This is for prod. We said the rule was slightly different, and it was to allow still Nexus, but only the prod network, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that'll really, like, if something gets compromised by chance, right? Like, this is a higher level policy that kind of, stops that process from, breaking past, the barriers of the namespace, essentially, right? So,
yeah. And this one in particular is about, you may want to say, I want to keep prod and non-prod separated from network, from a
right.
network
Like
perspective.
You can actually say, like, to allow no cross traffic between these environments.
And still they run on the same cluster. This is not typically what we do, but you could do that, right? In theory, and you have all the tools to configure that. Okay, so we can run the script here. All right. So this is a little bit of work for this operator all at once, but we should see already that if we go back as administrator, administrators that we go to the project list, we start seeing already this project. Okay, so we have online acquisition credit score, service, build, dev, prod, and QA, right? So those were the projects that we were expecting, and all of them are already created. That was pretty quick. And then we go. These are the normal OpenShift, but so basically all of the projects were created. We can now try to connect. And let's go back. Let's say we want to be investment. So if oh man,
that's a security feature.
Yeah,
remember that.
Logged out.
Yeah, it's okay. So it was admin. Yeah. Okay. So what I want to do is just to see who is the developer in this. So Dev3 is the developer in online banking investment account service. So let's go and log in as Dev3. I'm still confused by what happened before. So
Yeah,
if I log out here, what happens? Will I be administrator?
Magic 8 Ball says
Dev3.
You have a nerd magic 8 ball. Let's see what it says. It says.
Try again.
When?
Dev3. Okay.
It's wrong.
So let's see what we see. We see all of the projects, which is fine. That's what we said in the rule. But what can we do, right? Sorry, we were in online banking investment. If I go to that one, sorry, online banking investment. Let's say I go to this. I am a developer, so I'm going to go to the developer view, and let's say I want to deploy a database. No, I don't remember how to do this.
You have options, plenty of options in that catalog.
Now I'm gonna show how much I don't do these things. Now, where can I find like a little build of maybe a Python?
Yeah, go do me a favor. Go back to the ad. Go back to ad.
Yeah.
Or go to the catalog from the catalog.
Yeah, there you go.
There. Okay.
Yeah, and
okay.
I happen to like the .NET example.
This one?
Old school. Yeah.
Build their image. Okay, cool. So let's create this one. So we are in a build project. So the build should work.
Yep. Go ahead and click on that sample. Try sample. Right below under you. No.
Try sample. Okay. Good.
Yep. It'll automatically pre-populate that for you. Set everything up.
And then I can
all
just
opinionated out of the box. You can obviously customize. Click create. And one of the benefits of OpenShift is through a process called source to image. Go ahead and build that and deploy it.
All right. So if you're lucky, this should be doing a build. Yeah. So as you can see, the build started. Now, while this is doing it, let's go to a different project. Let's go to build payment. Okay. Let's do add and let's do from catalog. Same thing, right? And we expect this to not work, right? Because we should not have permission to do it. This is trying to do something.
It's thinking hard.
Yeah, it's thinking hard.
Well, let's.
Don Hazel points out that like network policy is opaque-ish sometimes to folks, right? Like they can't always see that. And I'm trying to convey the argument that like if the egress network policy is in place, right? Like there's usually a business reason, like compliance reason, right? Like it's not like something that you can just like, oh yeah, let me walk around that, right? Like there's a lot of consideration that had gone into place before that.
And what I like to emphasize is documentation.
Yeah.
Explain why. Because developers just go, they don't want the platform to be a black box. They want to be able to understand why, because they'll go, oh, I guess I can't go ahead and talk to this server because it can talk to the production network and, cause millions of dollars of financial, losses. That's a problem.
Right. So yeah, the key thing is if you have a policy in place already, is to like make sure that is documented and the why is documented. Always document the why. And if you can, label like the why in the policy as well, right? Somehow, or annotate it somehow so that you can say, right, like Sarbanes-Oxley or whatever, right? Like whatever the reason is, put it in there. So it's
yeah, no, I get that too from developers. In my experience, can mean a few things. Like it can mean I don't know exactly what the policies are in my organization, and that's something that the organization needs to fix. Or it could mean it's difficult to read what network policies are, network policies object, and that's for us to help people understand how to define them and how to use them.
Enable your developers, folks. Enable your developers.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is very new to them, and try to make it as easy as possible. And that's what our user interface here is trying to do, is to make it as easy as possible. But then as a first step to getting your manifest, because everything in OpenShift Kubernetes, it can be expressed in manifests.
Yep.
You go ahead and walk through the console the first time, and then as we talked about, oh goodness, an hour ago, GitOps, being able to take those manifests and put it into a GitOps model.
And the third interpretation could be, and this is usually comes from security, is once a network policy rule is defined, we don't really have a way to see what's happening, right? Is it denying stuff, or like, so they would like to see a sort of an audit of the deny of that the network policy did, and well, that's not there. So I'm not sure why. It could be that it's failing because we don't have enough permission even to create the
user
metadata.
dev 3 cannot create resource. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I think we have demonstrated this piece. Wow, we can't even go back from here. Okay. Well, but what if I want?
You have tried to do something illegal.
Yeah. What if I wanted to go to the investment? Right,
Someone will be at your desk shortly.
Right.
But
as you can see, this build finished correctly, and the pod is up. And so I'm here. I'm impersonating developer 3, right? And as a developer 3, I'm connected for the first time, and everything was ready for me, right? That was the final point, the final objective that we tried to achieve with this setup.
Oh, so Linux on Twitch just said, it'd be neat if there might be a central internal log for complex actions like firing off a deployment. There is. The Kubernetes event log is full of.
That's one. And then if you want to be able to audit those actions, you can go ahead and integrate OpenShift Kubernetes audit API to be able to track down who did what. Great.
Yeah, the who did what is the big part, right? Like the event log is just a like deluge of just everything happening in your cluster all at once. Yes, you can go through that, but adding a component on top to kind of connect the dots for you really, really helps.
Okay, so that concludes our demo.
Awesome.
So now the floor is open for questions.
I feel like I'm in a Monty Python. Next concludes the movie.
What's next? Nice. What is next? So some very cool demo. Thank you very much for that. The audience agrees. A lot of chat action activity today. Over 100 messages, so good job.
We kept people excited and entertained. I would have fallen asleep a long time ago.
Well, do we have Raf, or do you have all the links available to all the stuff we touched today that I could just like spam chat with?
It's, if you can share this presentation, it's here. Otherwise, I can
let's see.
Where do you want me to put the links?
Just drop them. I mean, Slack, wherever you want to put them that you can communicate with me is fine.
Yeah, okay.
It'll pop up eventually somewhere.
This is the demo itself, and then I give you the 2 operators that we saw.
A lot of these operators are part of the Red Hat community of practice, GitHub organization. A lot of good content there.
Sweet. I will spam the chat. Yeah, our SREs, right? Like I'm friends with some of them. They love feedback. Because if you as a customer are having problems and we don't know about it, then we can't help you.
If a tree falls in the forest, and no one's around to hear it, did it really fall?
Not until someone comes around to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you have questions or anything, where can folks reach y'all if they want additional interrogations?
So the first one, if you're starting to play around with some of these operators and components and things break or you love them, obviously adding issues to the GitHub repositories is one of them. I know I'm on social media, so feel free to reach out and ping me.
Yeah, at Chris Short on Twitter for me, and most of the other places, Chris-Short on GitHub if you want to ping me on an issue or something. I have been known to respond. All of a sudden, group chat.
I have a much more complicated Twitter and handle, Sabre SABRE 1041 across all the channels. And
well, at least you made it unique across all the channels. Mine varies slightly. Yeah.
I am on LinkedIn if you want to contact me, or through these repos if you have a specific question around those topics.
Awesome. So I will continue the chat. I will continue dropping links in chat after the stream is over. I believe I can do that because the Restream chat tool has all of a sudden decided to just not post stuff, even though I'm adding in there.
Technology.
I think it's an Electron app, so I might just need to hit refresh or close it or something. Yeah, refresh. There we go. So thank you, Raphael, Andrew. Thank you both for joining me and the rest of us today. Collectively, we appreciate all the hard work you're doing. I will continue to share links and so forth in chat after everybody logs off. But thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And look forward to seeing you again tomorrow at, let's see, the first one tomorrow kicks off at 1400 UTC with everything about InfraNodes. Myself, Christian Hernandez, and maybe Jafar Tarabi will be on to talk about how to build InfraNodes, why to build InfraNodes, so forth, so on.
You wrote Christian on again?
Again, yes.
Wow.
I mean, it's
almost
almost
number 3 or 4 at this point.
Oh, he's up there. Trust me. Yeah, he might. I think he might have more than Eric right now. And then after that is the OpenShift Commons briefing. What's new on Operator Framework? So I will obviously be very happy to see that. And that will be it for tomorrow. But subscribe to our calendar. Go to red.ht/streamcal, and you'll be aware of all the upcoming events right there in your own calendar. Also hit follow on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, and you'll be alerted as you see fit with your notifications. So thank you all again for joining. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.